Now, I first want to set the scene, being completely transparent. For you guys that don't know, ISOM and the Rippaverse was not my first creative project. I did music independently since I was a teenager, explored different funding efforts in order to do that. I mean, I grew up in the mixtape era, right, in Texas. So selling CDs at the trunks of your car, of your own music, in the club scene, all of that. So I did a lot of exploring multiple genres as well, even being a writer. Doing ghostwriting for a lot of metalcore and hardcore bands. So I had done it all. And I mean, that was over a decade before I'd even conceptualized the Rippaverse. And a lot of people don't know that even with crowdfunding, though the Rippaverse doesn't crowdfund, I explored that with Backwards. In 2015, our first album, a lot of people don't know this, Veracity, was crowdfunded. And there's a lot of crossover, whether you know it or not, with the music industry and the comic book business. I think a lot of that has to do with is just general entertainment, and especially when you're dealing with something that you distribute to people, there's a lot of crossover there. So I had this knowledge base, and I took a lot of what I learned from the music business, tried to apply it to the Rippaverse. That said, I did reach out to a lot of people that I knew in the comic book industry, writers, editors, some artists, just to try to pick up some game, get some basic sort of advice. And the big takeaway, I guess the biggest thing that I learned right before we had launched to the public, the Rippaverse, is that a lot of people have great insight when it comes to the creative element of doing comics, and that makes a lot of sense. But logistically, a lot of people, and most of those that I talked with, were still figuring it out along the way. Most didn't really know what they were doing, and that's no knock to them, because if you think about it, definitely if you come from the mainstream industry, you have been a contractor your entire life, so you may have the creative aspect down pat, but that was siphoned off to someone else that was responsible for the general publishing element, and that's specifically what I'm talking about, and that deals a lot with logistics. So again, I went into publishing this comic book and launching the Rippaverse, taking what I learned from the music industry and trying to also apply some of those tidbits that I picked up from other people. And this is the main thing that I learned once we hit $1 million in just over a day. Volume changes everything. So a lot of the info that I got and a lot of things that I was trying to apply became void immediately, because when you're dealing with things in scale, it's just that you're playing a different game. Trying to ship 100 items, trying to ship even 1,000 items, or trying to account for that. Sure, there may be a little crossover with some of those higher volumes, but realistically, you're playing a completely different game. Trying to sell a couple of hundred versus, okay, you have now sold over 40,000, so tens of thousands of books, and now you have to figure out how to get this stuff to customers. So the scaling part was the most difficult. Thankfully, I had a lot of people that I was able to reach out to that obviously became full-time employees with the Rippaverse, leaning on them and their expertise in whatever position that I hired them. You have to be humble and have some humility about yourself and understand that you can't do it all and you don't know what you don't know. So you got to bring those people in and trust that they were going to do their jobs. And we had a great staff. A lot of those guys, most of those guys actually that helped me build it from that day forward are still here with the Rippaverse today. And with that being said, the other big takeaway and a thing that you learn immediately is that because you're playing a different game, negotiating is probably your most useful tool, and everything at volume is up for negotiation. If you go to certain applications that you may use, you'll see that you have the paid plan and the pro plan, and then once you start getting into enterprise stuff, it never really gives you a price. It says contact sales or something like that. That is basically with everything across the board with publishing when you're dealing with those higher volumes, and that you're negotiating everything, the prices, everything. It doesn't matter your parcel companies that you're working with, whatever shipping methods, how you're getting those labels printed, box companies, obviously the printers as it pertains to your comic books. Everything is up for negotiation, and you have to be, it's all about tactics, right? You got to negotiate those best deals to try to, take advantage of that and future-proof yourself, because a year goes by, a couple of years go by, you're going back to the negotiating table. Yeah, a lot of what I learned was it just became void because of the volume that we were dealing with. But yeah, I learned a lot, obviously, with publishing ISOM and launching the Rippaverse. And here's the thing, you're still learning all the time, mainly because technology is ever changing. So the markets are ever changing. And so some of the information that was valid a while back, it may not be valid now. So you have to always be ready, flexible, able to pivot and make adjustments. Everybody, no matter how long you've been in the game, you're still learning. And that's kind of part of the fun.